regarding the medico-legal aspects of the contusions. Regarding the age and the time, this is the most important university question usually. How will you time a bruise? That means you have to determine the age of the bruise. How old, how many days have been passed since its infliction. The naked eye appearance will be showing the color changes. Color changes because of the disintegration of the hemoglobin. Conversion of hemoglobin into hemocytin, into hematidine and bilirubin. From brown to green and to yellow. So these variation in colors, red, brown, green and yellow. This is the color changes which a bruise will be showing. अक्सर आपने उर्दू की फ्रेज सुना ना मार मार के नीला पीला कर दिया. So that is because of the variation. It also shows the different timing of injury. If on the same individual there are various bruises in various stages of healing. Some are reddish, some are greenish, some are yellowish. So that means the infliction time is variable. So we can determine the torture time also. So regarding the naked time, from the color changes we manifest. So initially it is reddish and the color is from periphery to center. From periphery towards center there is color change. And this is because of the breakdown of hemoglobin by the tissue enzymes and the tissue histocytes. So hemoglobin initially it will be showing a reddish color. Then the hemocytin will be brown in color and hematidine green, and then ultimately it will be bilirubin which will be yellow. So these four colors, red, brown, green and yellow, they are because of the disintegration of the hemoglobin into hemocytin, hematidine and bilirubin. So change in the color because of time, it is fresh, it is red, and in about 1 to 2 days it is a reddish blue, and then in 2 to 4 days purple or bluish black, and then 5 to 7 days it turns green, and in 10 days, 7 to 10 days it is yellow. So this is how from periphery to center the color is variegated. And in 15 days, the phagocytes they eat up the pigment and completely clear up the area, and it will not be visible. So this sequence of color change can vary from person to person, from wound to wound. So actual estimation is difficult, but you can give a range 5 to 7, 7 to 10, not exactly pinpoint. We can examine microscopically. These pigments, they are visible under the microscope, and we can also determine from the microscopic examination of the tissue which pigment is there and how old will be the injury. Like if it is detected hemocytin grows less than 3 days, and hematidine it should be at least 5 days old, and bilirubin 7 to 10 days. So see, these three pigments, they are visible under the microscope and they are showing the time frame. Regarding the antemortem and the postmortem, the antemortem, the margins are blurred due to vasoconstriction because sudden impact will compress the tissues, and at the center there will be bleached area, and on the side there will be extravasation of the blood. And the postmortem, they are sharply defined. The antemortem, because of the extravasation of the blood in the subcutaneous tissues, and this extravasation will infiltrate and stain the tissues. The tissues, they will be stained and if you cut it and try to wash it away, it will not be washed. Whereas the postmortem, there is pooling, passive pooling from the blood vessels, but this is not going to stain the tissue and it can easily be washed. So the antemortem wounds, antemortem hematoma, or any injury where the blood is extravasated, in antemortem it stains the tissue. It is infiltrated into the tissue. It will not be washed away. Whereas the postmortem injury, when you cut, there will be passive flowing of the blood from the vessels, and this blood is not going to stain the tissue and can easily be washed. So we between antemortem and postmortem injuries. So antemortem injuries show color changes, which we have discussed, and the blanching effect and the pressure effect will not be seen. If you apply pressure on the bruise, it will not bleach, blanch, whereas the postmortem, it will be on the one hand, it will not be showing any color change, and secondly, it will be blanched. And by the pressure, the blood will flow away. And this is the cut section. In the postmortem, when you cut it and wash it, it can easily be washed. Whereas this is a bruise, and it is on any side. You can distinguish it. The postmortem staining from bruise and postmortem staining. Postmortem staining is pulling gravitation of the blood because of effect of the gravity on the dependent surfaces only, whereas the bruise can be anywhere. It can be on the front, on the side, on the back, and the site of infliction of the weapon. And this is the postmortem staining at the back, and it appears on the areas which are not in contact. So the contact areas are bleached because of the weight of the body. The vessels are compressed, and the postmortem staining will not be visible there. Regarding the manner of infliction, mostly it is accidental or homicidal, but rarely they can be self-inflicted or suicidal. And careful history and examination will differentiate between. Police torture is the most common manner of infliction of bruises, and they have got the elective sites. And usually their elective sites, they are on the buttocks, on the hands, and the sole of the feet. Buttocks because there is thick muscle mass and fat tissue, and there is delayed bruising. Bruise will not be visible immediately. And similarly in the palm of the hands and the sole of the feet, the skin is firmly adherent to the subcutaneous tissue, and there is no space available for the collection of the blood. That's why they are the elective site. The hands will be extremely painful, tender, but no extravasation of blood will be visible. Similarly on the sole of the feet. So at the sole of the feet and hands, the skin is tightly attached with the underneath tissues, and bruise can appear delayedly, very faintly, but it is very painful. Now regarding the self-inflicted bruises, they are rare, but because we know that the application of blunt force to cause a bruise is of very high magnitude. So to inflict some injury by self-infliction is not possible. Then the trace evidence on the bruise. Sometimes the collection of sand, the fibers, the other material from the locus, from the scene of crime, they are deposited on the surface, and they will explain the crime story. Artificial bruising. Sometimes some irritating material is applied on the skin, and usually marking nut, which is a poison. Marking nut is used, and when it is applied to the surface, it causes extensive irritation. There is erythema and even the blister formation. And just by looking at the injury, you can distinguish that this is not by the application of blunt force. This is only the superficial erythema and the redness and vesicles, not deeper infiltration of the blood. So the artificial bruises can be produced by the application of irritating object, and usually the marking nut is used, and it can be easily distinguished. Then regarding the kind of weapon, sometimes the kind of weapon, because of the imprint, we can distinguish what weapon is being used. Like the tram track bruising or tram line bruising, because of the stick, because of the metal rod or whiplash. When a longitudinal object is being firmly pressed, at the point of impact there will be blanching or bleaching, and on the sides there will be hemorrhages. So two parallel lines showing the hemorrhages with the central point of impact, that will indicate that some long weapon like stick, metal rod or whiplash has been used, causing tram track or tram lines. So this is characteristic of stick, whiplash or metal rod, and there is contusion of two parallel lines of hemorrhages and a central pale line at the point of impact. Central pale, and on the side there are hemorrhagic lines. And this is how these parallel lines are visible. This is the point of impact. Central there will be pale, and on the sides it will be showing the hemorrhages. So these are tram track or tram line bruising because of the stick, metal rod or whiplash. This is other injury showing of the imprint of the hand, imprint of the sole of the shoe, and some circular object. And there are 6 penny bruises which are pathognomonic of the throttling. When you throttle with your hand, the pads of the finger, they show circular discoid shaped bruises, 4 or multiple on one side and one big larger because of the thumb on the one side. And if the both hands are used, multiple bruises can be on both sides. So these are called penny bruises or 6 penny bruises because of the shape of the coin was about the size of the finger pad. So they are basically the throttling with hand impression on the pads of the finger on the front of the side of the neck. Now regarding the complications or the pathophysiological effect, infection, shock, and the fat embolism. Infection can be because there is collection of the blood, and the bacteria can invade through the blood vessels or any other source, and usually they are gram-negative, and that will cause an infection, and sometimes it can cause gangrene formation. And the shock, this is important in contusion. Because when we take contusion, they appear as simple injuries because there is not much damage. But when the area of bruised tissues is larger than 25% of the surface area or 25% of the volume of the body, that is calculated as length, breadth, and the depth. That will give the volume of the bruise. So if it is more than 25%, it will produce shock. Length into breadth into depth will give the volume, and it causes hypovolemic shock. And the fat embolism, as the subcutaneous fat is being crushed and it can travel through